Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Elsa Dwipa. My student number 4. I'm from State Islamic University Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. Today, I will present about 10 article review. So, let's get started.
Okay, the first article. Improving vocabulary through word formation at secondary level, a survey by Muhammad Habdar Bahti Rafia Mukhtar. The general problem is about folding and forming words in learning English. Affixes are problematic for students, and one of their main difficulties is their recognition and creation. The students face difficulties in understanding and recognizing them in their English learning. So, conveying English vocabulary to ESL learners through affixes and is a new idea. Students also remain in learning vocabulary in traditional classroom. And we'll also investigate how the use of word information help learners to overcome their lack of vocabulary skill in their target language. There are objectives or purpose of the research. English is used all over the world as an international language. To learn any language, spoken and writing skills are equally important. In fact, learning a second language is never easy. Learners have to wrestle with new vocabulary, grammar rules, pronunciation, and more in learning a second language. Vocabulary is the most important. It is this also the first and foremost step in mastering the language. Knowledge plays an important role in almost all areas of language. So, the whole process of learning and a language depends on our learning it is vocabulary. The author finding major and significant improvement in vocabulary. It is recommended that quizzes, exercise, and tests for affixes shall be used to enhance the vocabulary among students. The finding of this study shall be taken into careful consideration and steps shall be taken to implement those in our class. If implemented international, it is expected that the state of the teaching and learning of vocabulary skill at secondary level will be improved remarkably. Okay, the next the next article. Relationship between student attitude toward vocabulary learning and their English vocabulary knowledge by KBD Kasa Zeleke Abiko Mebratu Mulatu. The general problem area is was grammar which was emphasized more than vocabulary during this period. Revival of language teaching method of attention paid to vocabulary or grammar, speaking and reading, communicative competence develop meaningful communication. It also pay little attention to teaching vocabulary rather than viewing it as a support for functional language use. There are objective or purpose of the research. This study investigates the relation between student attitude, cognitive, affective, and behavioral toward learning vocabulary and their knowledge of English vocabulary, breadth, depth, and fluency. The after finding measure is upon cognitive, affective, and behavioral toward vocabulary learning, and their English vocabulary knowledge, breadth, depth, and fluency, with reference to grade 9. The finding indicate that 3 was a very strong positive relation between student attitude toward learning vocabulary and the breadth of their English vocabulary knowledge, but a strong positive relationship for some aspect for breadth of vocabulary knowledge. A moderate positive relation was found between student attitude toward learning vocabulary and the depth of their English vocabulary knowledge, but it was weak positive separation between cognitive and affective aspect of attitude and they knowledge of some aspect of the depth of the knowledge of vocabulary. There is a moderate positive relation between each aspect of student attitude toward learning vocabulary and their fluence in English vocabulary knowledge. That is to found that student attitude toward vocabulary learning predicate their depth and fluence in English vocabulary knowledge respectively. Next article, the correlation between EFL student vocabulary knowledge and reading comprehension, a case study at the English Education Department of University Christian Indonesia by David Hotmagasi Manihur. The general problem area is reading is an important basic life skill. Because reading is a skill that involves understanding and meaning phrases, the fitted forward is clear that reading cannot be done without vocabulary to easily understand the next. Possession of a large number of words is needed without adequate vocabulary. One cannot communicate effectively but spoken and written language. That is object of purpose of the research. The study aimed to investigate the relation between students' vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension performance. The population of this research it is also studied in English language education. The author main finding is finding a moderate positive correlation between vocabulary knowledge and reading comprehension. The next article, the effect of task-based learning activities on vocabulary learning and retention of Iranian EFL learners by Bahareh Kamalian, Hassan Sulaiman, and Mahmoud Safari. The general problem of this article is that students have many pedagogical needs which often necessitate different teaching approaches, but often limit student participation in the learning process, while vocabulary acquisition is a learner controlled activity that can increase motivation for new vocabulary acquisition, where this approach emphasizes content and memorization. English vocabulary generally require the teacher to translate the lesson into Persian. The student mother tongue before giving it with the meaning of the new vocabulary, such in, in, ineffective class method natural discards the development of the learner's vocabulary. Outside the classroom for vocabulary development from because there are almost no opportunities for learners to use language for everyday interaction. The author would like to discuss about the search for new and more efficient method is a consequence of social organization and requirement for smooth communication is task-based learning teaching or TBLT. The purpose or intent of this article is to investigate the effect of task-based reading activities such as the comprehension and study general question and vocabulary learning and retention of Iranian intermediate EFL learners. Finding and conclusion. The finding indicate the use task-based reading activities uh, such as text comprehension and student generated question has a significant and meaningful effect on EFL Iranian student vocabulary learning and retention research complement implementation is discussed. Okay, next article. Does reading and vocabulary knowledge of advanced Korean EFL learners facilitates their reading performance by Young Sun Moon, Jin Yun Choi, and Yu Sun Kang. The general problem of this article is about vocabulary knowledge and reading comprehension related to language and literacy play a role in explaining one's writing performance in integrative manner. Also, despite the fact that the right language proficiency seems to influence how the relation between writing ability and different from of mm, language skill and literacy. Therefore, therefore, the research helped identify the potential contribution that reading, comprehension, and vocabulary knowledge might have to the writing abilities of advanced Korean EFL learners. The purpose or intent of this article was to investigate the relative predictability of reading comprehension and vocabulary knowledge for advanced Korean EFL learners. Writing performance measure for both form and contents for quality while their English proficiency was considered. The findings of this study are to show that reading comprehension ability, vocabulary knowledge, and general English proficiency all have a significant relation with advanced Korean EFL learners' structural and linguistic aspect of writing performance. Between reading comprehension ability and vocabulary knowledge, reading comprehension has relatively predictability for their writing performance, whereas vocabulary knowledge only show an indirect effect on writing performance through reading comprehension. Okay, the next article, effect of flipped classroom on high and low achievers English vocabulary learners by Si Ching Chan Yang, Yu Ching Liu, and Andre Kriametsuet. The general problem of this article is that it addresses several issues related to blended learning which reverses the traditional pedagogical practice of requiring students to review instructional content or often online, at home and transfer hand-on experience or activities that would formally take place outside the classroom. The purpose or intention of this article is to investigate the effect of the flipped classroom learning model on the English vocabulary learning ability of students who have high achievement and students who have low achievement. The author findings of this study are that both method interaction that is effective in promoting vocabulary again. However, the first class was better able to reduce variation among students in multi-level class. Importantly, although both high and low achievers both benefit from reverse classroom interaction and were left with positive attitude to the additional workload. It's great the effect of the flip. Okay, next article. The title, The Effect of Explicit and Implicit Interaction of Vocabulary Through Reading on EFL Learning Vocabulary Development by Marzia Kamesifor. The general problem of this article is how the different methods of vocabulary interaction, namely implicit interaction and implicit interaction, but affect student vocabulary development in foreign language learning. This article also discussed the importance of vocabulary in foreign language learning and how holistic problem can affect communication. The purpose of this article is to provide new insight about effectively vocabulary interaction method and help improve student vocabulary skill in foreign language learning. The finding of this study indicate that both implicit and implicit vocabulary interaction methods are effective in improving the vocabulary skill of EFL students. However, implicit vocabulary interaction through narrow reading proved to be more effective in increasing student vocabulary skill than explicit vocabulary interaction. The results of this study are consistent with the finding of previous students which show that learning implicit vocabulary through narrow reading can improve student vocabulary skills significantly. The next article, effect of explicit vocabulary interaction on writing achievement of upper and intermediate of e-learners by Syed Amir Solati, Dehkordi, and Hadi Saleh. Mm. The main problem of this article is how to improve student productive abilities in using vocabulary in a second language aspect in the context of writing. This article discusses the effectiveness of teaching vocabulary explicit and increasing student productive abilities in using vocabulary in a second language, as well as how teaching vocabulary explicit can help students convert receptive vocabulary knowledge into productive vocabulary knowledge. The purpose, the purpose of this article is to investigate the effectiveness of teaching explicit vocabulary in improving the ability to use new word in writing a segment and highlight the importance of vocabulary learning in language acquisition and so that reducing the amount of vocabulary learned by learners can be detrimental to the development of other aspects of language. Um, in this study, the author found the teaching explicit vocabulary could improve student ability to use new words in writing assignment and correct the gap between receptive and productive vocabulary knowledge. In addition, teaching implicit vocabulary can increase student introductory vocabulary through into productive vocabulary and also found that teaching explicit vocabulary had a significant impact on student writing performance and the quality of their composition. The next article, the effect of YouTube in multimedia interaction for vocabulary learning, perception of, of the next Then the next article, the effect of YouTube in multimedia interaction for vocabulary learning, perception of EFL student and teacher by Rahania Kaboha and Tariq Elias. The general problem of this article in the effectiveness of using multimedia technology, especially YouTube video, in teaching and learning English as a foreign language EFL. With a focus on vocabulary acquisition and comprehension. This study aims to investigate the effect of using YouTube video on Saudi female students' comprehension and vocabulary retention, as well as student and teachers' perception of the inclusion of YouTube in vocabulary development, and also review various studies on the use of technology is in teaching EFL and discuss the factors that influence the acceptance of technology among teacher and student. The purpose of this article is to provide information and recommendation for educator and practitioners in teaching English as a second language using multimedia technology aspect the YouTube video. Finding in this study that the use of YouTube video in teaching English as a second language can improve vocabulary comprehension and retention, and the result of the study showed that students who were exposed to YouTube video during English vocabulary learning and uh, had a significant increase in understanding and recognition of the target vocabulary compared to the control group who were not exposed to YouTube videos. In addition, it showed that students and teachers have a positive first perception of the use of YouTube video in teaching English vocabulary. The next video, the next article, the integration of implicit and explicit vocabulary interaction, project-based learning, multimedia, and experiential learning to improve the Thai EFL senior high school student vocabulary ability by Satit Somjai and Kititaut Santor Wipas. The general problem in this study is how to improve the vocabulary skill to EFL high school students. This study aims to explore the integration of implicit and explicit vocabulary interaction, project-based learning, and multimedia and experiential learning to improve student vocabulary skill. These studies seek to determine whether the integration of these four concepts can lead to improved vocabulary skill and positive perception of teaching among students. The main purpose of this article is to explore the integration of implicit and explicit vocabulary interaction, project-based learning, multimedia, and experiential learning in improving the English vocabulary skill of high school students. The recent findings from this article are that in the integration of implicit and explicit vocabulary interaction, project-based learning, multimedia, and experiential learning can improve the vocabulary skill of English students in senior high school. The result of the pre-test and post-test showed a significant increase in student vocabulary skill after participating in integrated learning. In addition, students give positive response into integrated learning and thought that this learning helped them expand their English vocabulary.